What is up, my bitches, bros, and non-binary? I'm sorry. I had to do a double take on that because I forgot what I was going to start this video with. Anyway, yeah, we're getting into Volume 5 of Blood and Comfort. Ah, quite the oxymoron there. You know, I noticed that these videos were getting like no views and I don't care. Because I like doing this anyway. If people aren't going to watch it, then oh well. But I just like doing it. So, ain't no stopping me. It's been a few days since your last and very unpleasant shift of field duty. The discovery that you were being tailed, along with your sudden explosion-related disappearance from the corporate comms grid, sent everyone into a tizzy, Sestro and Hamithi especially, in their respective ways. Oh yeah. And so you spent the last few days on enforced rest. You spent your hours researching, following up with contacts, and consumed with thought. After a near-death scrape or two with several hours of interviews, you're really only a single step closer to answering the question that sits like ice in your gut. Who has the resources and the nerve to execute a theft of this magnitude, get away with it, and put a tail on the planet's top regulator, all while finding the time to engage in online harassment? Is it a bit... Oh wait, no, it's not early to say that. One thing for sure, you're going to stir crazy here. This sparse respite block won't hold you for long. So, we got a bit of familiar face here. I mean, if you've read Vastera, that is, you will definitely recognise this blue boy, Oshis Collian. And we also have Moshiri Libeta. Well, I think it's Libeta. We're obviously going to start off with Oshis and his little boy there. Content warning, this route contains police brutality. Oh yeah. This route. I forgot about that. So yeah, viewer discretion is advised. There'll be some other routes with content warnings as well. Right. Knowledge may be a burden, but ignorance always comes at the cost of character. And I tire of being ignorant, Cecily. I'm back with Miffy. Hello, madam. Well, that's something the two of you have in common. You don't voice that thought, of course. The last thing you need right now is to further prod the irritable, impatient bird of prey that's standing in front of you. Oh, she's got a little purple rose for Sestro. And a hickey. There's nothing stopping you from indulging in a spot of snappy commentary in the privacy of your mind, however, which is what you're doing at the present. It helps with the stress, somewhat. You've been summoned back to a certain conference room by a certain superior in order to discuss a certain case. With all the certainty going around, you would have hoped that this case would be going far more smoothly. The scene before you is all too familiar. This being here strikes with a sense of déjà vu, down to the underlying tension permeating the atmosphere. If anything, said tension is even more pronounced, now that it was before. An expected development, really, considering the pragmatic, methodical dispositions of the individuals involved. It's not hard to let the lack of concrete results get under one's skin, when one is either Cecily Eopara or Hamithi Hecrix. Take a deep breath, letting out in a short huff. Pardon me. I understand your frustration, Miss Hecrix. This investigation has been progressing slower than I'd like it to as well. I can say with certainty, however, that I'm starting to see a larger pattern forming. Furthermore, I have eliminated several potential suspects thus far, and there are still many leads to follow. And if the elaborate indirect attempts on my life of newly established surveillance in the form of a less than discreet girl are anything to go by, I say this points to me being on the right track. Miffy narrows her eyes. The tap-tap-tapping of her pen on the clipboard is a metronome of sorts, a steady auditory accompaniment you narrow in on as she considers your words. You use this lulling conversation to take in her appearance more carefully, and, now that you think about it, this change from her regular business casual look is rather conspicuous. These silks and linens are way too elaborate for your usual meetings. You can't really tell from this angle, but you're sure the back of her new hairdo is as striking as the front. She's always had a good eye for aesthetics. You like to think how you taught her a thing or two about it. Knowing Hamithi, though, she wouldn't be particularly receptive to this idea. In fact, she would probably have you publicly retract a statement like that and submit a written apology in triplicate signed and stamped. She might also fine you or mark you down for insubordination. Kinda depends on the day, really. Anyway, There's a little detail in that definitely does not escape your notice. It seems Himithi has also chosen to integrate quite the colourful bruise into a new ensemble. It's sitting right at the junction between her neck and collarbone, almost deliberately peeking out from under her dress. A loud and clear statement, to be sure. You can only imagine how Sestra was marked in turn. Ho ho. Ah, young love. Good for them. She stops her tapping and clicks her pen with a sense of finality. I've decided your next suspect for you. He had a feeling this was where this conversation was going. Only on rare occasions is Smithy this hands-on with the micromanaging of corporate assets, but you've known it for quite some time. Still, a small, practically negligible part of you wishes that Smithy would at least ask how you're doing before telling you what you're doing, just once. I already have a list of suspects, all personally handpicked by the two of you. Should I not be sticking to it? We both know that this has not stopped you from defying orders on at least 3 occasions thus far. This also happens to be the 3rd time she's brought these transgressions up in this conversation alone. You have to fight the urge to bristle at the comment. The reprimanding superior routine is starting to wear on you. Mother and father are both, you really wish every single detail didn't always come to this girl. Talking to her sometimes feels like swallowing knives. You bite back a grimace and silently wait for her to continue. This choice is, admittedly, somewhat personal in nature, but we received a tip from one of our insiders, and given my previous suspicions, I was inclined to look into it immediately. Consider it a special request on my behalf, for all the precious time you wasted following that unhinged, voice-changing criminal. Doesn't every request you follow qualify as being on her behalf by default? This is like saying squares categorically differ from rectangles. Pointless semantics. Oh, you know White Noise is the one who said that. Very well. Who is it that I'm to investigate next, Miss Hegrex? Osh's Collian, spearhead of our modest number of outsourced researchers. And his field is... Has my Cecily voice changed again? I don't care enough to dwell on that. Himithi glances aside for a brief moment. You can practically hear the clench for her clench her teeth from her pursed lips. Hematology. Oh? I thought an area of study was largely obsolete nowadays. Your assessment evidently doesn't match his. Her voice drops low, bitter. You don't really understand where this animosity is coming from. His results are unprecedented. This world hasn't seen anything like it before. And this is a bad thing? Is an abhorrently suspicious thing. So is her sudden change in attitude. Is there anything else that drew your attention to him, beside the subject of his research? The man is a workaholic to an extreme degree. There's no record of him engaging in recreational activities or using his various granted credits for anything besides bare necessities. Everything accrues ends up being funneled back into his research, with the exception of hive refurbishment and expansion. He is also notably cagey about technical descriptions during his check-ins, preferring physical demonstration. His exact methods remain unclear. She narrows her eyes, looking particularly disgruntled. Hard to reason with as an understatement. Though granted to her, the reclusive attitude and frugality would raise a few eyebrows. She seems to be taking it almost personally, though, which strikes you as odd. What else could you tell me about him? His specific study is built around the extension of life and revitalization. He is consistently impressed on that front, especially among my jade-blooded kin. Oh, you're seeing where this is going. He's impeding on territory that Hemithi would rather leave untouched. Jadebloods form a rather unique Reptonian subculture, in your experience. Unusual, especially in the current day and age, where a fairly homogeneous planet-wide cultural lifestyle is shared across the mass. Only rivaled by the remaining sea dwellers in terms of scarcity, Jades are special in their cultivated ties to one another, bound by shared knowledge in a manner that borders on the familial. Ordinarily, this concept is only tossed around in relation to the mythical, or if you're especially lucky and happen to stumble upon it, the inherited. It's a personal thing, what these particular ties mean in each individual. Still, it's something that your species as a whole is aware of. You suppose you can see where she's coming from. The facilitation of life and its myriad intricacies have been passed down for countless generations among her caste. At this point, the knowledge of reduplication has been installed into them almost as a birthright, as their purpose. And maybe doesn't want that taken away from her, even potentially. You have an instinctual urge to prod. Maybe digging a little deeper into this would be prudent. You feel that it may be clouding her judgment. You decide against it. The last thing you need right now is to further try her patience and have her question your intentions, but you just stow the idea away for later. That, and you can't say Collian's area of research doesn't bring the stolen violin to mind. The connection to revitalization alone makes this doctor a prime suspect. There is reason for suspicion here, even if under unfair pretenses. Vivi clears her throat. Well, are you just going to stand there and ponder, or should I invite you to act? Why so impatient, this one? There's a lot to consider going into this. Consider it while you move. We've updated your files with his location. You're going to want to leave quickly. You're about to do just that, but you catch something in her expression. It feels like she still has more she wants to say. The longer you stand in the same place, the more likely the parasites are to bite you. She holds your gaze, waiting for you to comment. You raise an eyebrow. Was that a joke? I'm trying my hardest to keep my good mood. You scoff, taking the banter for what it is. An unspoken peace offering between the two of you. Give the air my regards, and have a pleasant time on your outing. Her gaze briefly flirts downwards toward her clipboard, and you catch the barest ghost of a smile on her lips. Noted. That's a rarity. With a quick flash of colour, you're left alone in the room, and in another, you leave it empty. Ooh. Interesting. The plains that stand before you are a desolate, dismal sight. More like dismal. Colossal bones of long-dead creatures litter the landscape, the only points of interest amidst the cracked, jagged edges that make up the scenery, that and the lonely hive that stands a few expanses away. The air is cold here. A dreary fog permeates the area, curling around everything it touches, almost as if it's alive. Wispy, ghostly tendrils circling what little fauna manages to survive in this place. In the distance, you hear the faint howl of a black-blooded lusus. It's a lonely sound, a desperate call for a bond it will probably never find. Not out here. All around you are familiar faces. No, all around you, everything seems to whisper a single word. Death. No one ever comes this far out into the undead wasteland, at least not without a damn good reason. You're well aware of yours. And you will not be leaving before you find out what exactly it is that this Collian fellow is keeping so close to his chest. On that though, it's high time you've got an actual move on. You start making your way down the slope towards the Skull Titan graveyard. The terrain here is way too uneven for tyres, and so the bike had to be left behind. Oh jeez, pardon me. You bid it a solemn and silent farewell as you hop over a particularly large crack in the ground. It's not a very steep incline though. Any difficulty in the descent is more due to the graveyard's inhabitants than any sort of downslope. Maybe difficulty is overstating it a bit. Oh, I just added 2 words in there. You're glad to resign from the position as chief regulator if you ever let a bunch of wild lucii and mindless half-dead trolls get in your way. You see some of these creatures are eager to try their luck though. As you land on the other side of a small ravine, 2 trolls whip their heads around and start slowly shambling toward you. You'd call it brave if you didn't get the distinct impression their actions come from lack of high cognitive function, rather than a sudden bout of courage. Oh well, it would be rude not to indulge them. Be quiet, for a change. The ensuing fight, by a loose definition of the word, is quick and straightforward. The unit closest to you, now in striking distance, lunges in your direction. You're already strafing to the right, and dodge with ease. A swift advance to get in the better position. You'll blade through its neck, and it's over. The body slumps in on itself after a couple of seconds after a final wet gurgle. Ugh. You turn around to face your second opponent. Like the first troll, it tries to grab at you with clumsy, loudly telegraphed movements, and like the first troll, you finish it off in a matter of seconds. Side step to the left, slide to the right, use the opening to circle around it, run possibly through its chest. Dead. Oh, no blood splatter? Or are they dead for a second time, you guess? Double dead? No, that sounds really fucking stupid. What a burn. You pull your blade out of the corpse of the grunt, and it dislodges itself with a squirt of dark teal blood. Ugh, you'd have to give it a thorough wash later. Just as you move to sheathe it, you hear a very unpleasant squelching noise. Your eyes snap toward the sound. You have the distinct feeling you're about to extremely not like this. The carcass at your feet lies completely motionless. Motionless except for the arrhythmic, repetitive strain you're able to make on the back of its skull. Almost as something is trying to... Oh. Before you can finish your thought, the skin bursts open with a sickening pop, and bits of rotten flesh and brain matter explode outward as a handful of writhing vermin make their way out of the troll's head. Ew. The parasites that inhabit this stretch of the land are peculiar creatures. Not very well understood. They were discovered a few decagrades prior, only to start multiplying in droves over the course of the next few sweeps. These tend to stick only to very specific locations. The graveyard you find yourself in, for example, which likely stems from the abundance of a key component in their means of reproduction: corpses. These creatures burrow inside a troll's or lusus's body, using it as a walking host until their breeding cycle is complete, which they exit, only to find a new vessel and start the whole thing anew. It's all rather gruesome and revolting, and it's happening right in front of you right now. Your face contorts into a grimace at the disgusting display. This is absolutely appalling. You hate this place. There's a modicum of satisfaction in squashing the insects under your heel, though. Viscous yellow liquid squirts out when you press down, and the consistency makes you think of spilled jam, the grossest jam you've ever seen. It hardens like a resin when it comes into contact with the crisp winter breeze. Take that, you nasty little fiends. No more corpses for you. Oh, my sister's back. She better not come in here. Immediately congratulate yourself on the impromptu bout of pest control before shooting your rapier and... Oh, uh-oh. What? Oh! Beneath your feet, the southern trend has reached a deafening crescendo until a gargantuan figure shoots from the ground below you. You're knocked flat on your ass. You blink. The action is enough to nearly have you miss the cavernous gaping maw of an O-worm, as it claims your 2 kills for itself with an enthusiasm befitting a 6-star full-course meal. Wait, is it navy-blooded? It's very hard for you to imagine such a detestable, vicious creature forming any sort of genuine attachment to a troll, unless it had something to gain out of the arrangement, that is. Natural lucii often require their bonds to be symbiotic in some manner. Far cry from the instinctual caretaker leanings the domesticated, artificially reduplicated corporate lucii tend to exhibit. A chunk of what used to be someone's thigh flies through the air, landing right next to your feet. You would really rather not have to deal with that beast in close proximity if you can help it. With that in mind, you stand back upright, dust your coat off, and start speed walking towards your destination in as dignified and professional as manner as you can imagine. It ends up being somewhat stiff. The rest of your trek is far less uneventful than the first few minutes, or far less eventful. His hive is really not very hard to spot, an elaborate modern building that you usually wouldn't find any sub-purple trolls residing in. You have to admit, though, that you find the placement of it a tad questionable. Firstly, you would not have built your home smack dab in the middle of a monster's long-since brittled ribcage, right in the spot where a heart should be. I think in vast area it actually is in the middle of the ribcage as well. I guess it makes a statement of sorts. Oh well, to each their own. What a cool building. A few minutes later, you find yourself standing in front of an excessively large set of double doors. You see no way to properly knock on the entry slabs. No gaudy rings, no bells, no whistles, not even a communication box or standard issue PA system. You almost take offence to it. Really, any non-modest living space that's worth its salt should have at least one of those. It sends a very apathetic message to any hypothetical guests otherwise. Before you consider whether it's wise to loiter in the middle of one of the most uninhabitable places the mass has to offer, the door begins to clunk and creak. Oh my god, it's him. It's he. It takes a moment, but you spot the silhouette of what you assume is your man. He's still reading the shadows when you greet him. Hello, Dr. Collian. My name is Cecily Eopar... That was bad. I don't know. It's Rodgy. A rotund hunchback creature stitched together like a well-torn tapestry greets you at the threshold. Somehow you get the impression that it's trying to communicate things of equal greetings to you. It fixes you with a hollow yet oddly earnest stare. You were not expecting to be expected. Greetings? He, simply blinks up at you. Roar! This is not the individual you thought would be welcoming you. You furrow your eyebrows, taking in the short little living thing that's now stepped into the light, peeking its head out inquisitively. You'd never seen anything like it before. Could be one of those daring experiments Hermione mentioned back in her office. It certainly seems to be cobbled together from different parts, from what you can tell. Impressive and unprecedented results in the field indeed. Do you understand me? It tilts its head to the side in quite similar manner of that of a bark beast, then lets out a quiet, curious groan. It's almost endearing. You sigh. No, I don't suppose you would. You enact a number of interpretive hand motions at the creature, trying to convey the idea of doors opening and safe passage. It's like you're playing a slightly manic game of charades. No, we call it charades. Oh, what am I saying? Oh, you damn Americans. Despite your great efforts, it still refuses to budge from its place. The only reaction you get is a quiet clap of coarse, slightly wrinkled hands, and more indistinctive vocalizations. Speaking of which, guttural gurgles echo across the landscape, suddenly getting louder. The imminent company will soon be impossible to ignore. Glance at the critter, it looks back at you with its beady, innocent little eyes. Oh, damn it all, you just can't bring yourself to shove it out of your way. Oh, Cecily, if you put your hand on Roger, I tell you I'm gonna... Oh, I'll slap you silly. Resigning yourself to another series of butchery-related unpleasantries, you spin on your heels, your hand hovers on your revolver as you gear up to face the incoming aggressors. You've already got a solid smattering of gunk on your soles. You would really rather not risk your coat. Whether the putrescent beings begins at this moment to vomit on the ground in front of it, you wince. It must be an uncontrolled reaction to exertion, which you can't help but see as a threat to the continued cleanliness of your attire. This better be some man. As if on cue, the clack of what sounds like steel-toed boots rings out from the dark hall that your puzzling new acquaintance was guarding. Turn your head just in time to catch Scotland aside for, oh, there he is. Hello. So this is Oshis Collian, a very big, beefy scientist. You finally see your suspect, one Oshis Collian, making his entrance from the stage left. From stage left. Oh. I don't know what that is. Go away, OneDrive. You're fairly certain this is not a repeat of the previous identity mishap. Okay. Do excuse me for the wait, miss... Oh dear. With the effortless calm that comes with practice, he advances towards the nearest cluster of trolls and plunges his boot directly into one of their midsections. The movement not only rockets the troll's entrails out through its rotten back, but also sends all of the nearby reanimated corpses tumbling down with it. A familiar tremble rattles you. Seconds later, you become intimately acquainted with the gluttonous jaws of the O-worm as it bursts through the dirt to swallow all three cadavers whole. Sweet All-Mother, you really hate that thing. He also feels ever so slightly terrified of it. The encounter barely phases him. There is the briefest pause before he turns back to you, with what you can only describe as an unperturbed expression. Apologies once again, Miss Iopara. That is quite the unnecessary spectacle. He scrapes his boots on the ground, getting some of the undead gunk off his soles. At least your shoes match. Perhaps we should continue this inside. Would you please come in? Gladly so. You lead into his hive at last. You peer around at the various bits of machinery and cables with some amount of curiosity. As loud creaking as Collian's assistant closes the door behind you. Pardon me. Aww. Roger's baby. It scurries off to his side and peeks at you from behind his torso as the three of you make your way down the hall. You find the urge to give it a little wave before turning your attention back to your target. You're expecting me? Hamifa and I are in regular communication, and she was gracious enough to notify me of your arrival. Oh, that was hard to read, because, I've not been speaking about a character's quirks, so they've been simple enough. Oshis' quirk is that he surrounds his O's with, dots. Yeah, and sometimes it can be a bit hard to, spot the spaces because of it. Standard procedure for contractors. Of course, standard procedure. Her reputation for being by the book does lend a certain veneer of credibility to this blatant spying. Still wonder he never figured out anything that was out of the ordinary. She tends to have a lighter touch. Maybe you should be writing her up for such an obvious ploy. You take a closer look at him, the stiff set of his shoulders, the slight crease of his mouth. It's subtle, but he seems nervous, twitchy. Perhaps it's time to start applying some pressure. Wait, should his hive be here? I don't... Okay, has it not appeared yet? I don't know. You don't seem particularly thrilled about me being here. I don't get many visitors. He glances to the side, readjusting his arms behind his back. The rubber gloves creak with emotion. It would be incorrect to claim that this typically saddens me. You can certainly relate to that sentiment, if that's all there is to it. Sometimes the best company you have is your own. Yeah, I think Oshis doesn't meet anyone anymore, except for his mate Sprit. Sometimes, even then it's barely. A moment passes, and once again he schools his features into a cool, focused neutrality. Looking at him now would be surprised if a single muscle in his set jaw as much as twitched. Oh, there we go. Oh yeah, there's an Easter egg I noticed in this. To the far left, you can see fucking Beta Monokuma. Just then, the corridor opens up into a lab. It's what you'd expect from the usual researcher paraphernalia. Books, test tubes, various charts, an enormous computer pressed against the back of a wall, a tea table. Wait a second, is that an operating table? Huh. Please excuse the extent of the disarray. I was told that you were coming on a very short notice and had to rush disposal. Disposal? The lab needed to be purified post-haste for your arrival. Okay, that's rough. Also, I had to make us tea. This is why it took me so long to meet you at the door. He was making tea? Damn, maybe I kin Oshis more than Artjack, I don't know. I don't have any true kins aside from Sherlock Holmes. Anamori. You really did not have to go out of your way to do this for me. Nonsense, it is common courtesy. It really isn't, not when one chooses to pursue a career like yours. The effort is quaint. You appreciate it, even if it's not the most hygienic of choices. You're not usually receiving so much. You're not usually received so hospitably when you're dropped by for hive calls. You also don't have the chroma bead to tell him that you don't really care for tea. Well, Cecily, I beg to differ, as I'm drinking a cup of tea right now, and I'm also autistic. Warm milk with its unusual sugary fruits? Oh, never mind. And cocoa powder doesn't sit right with you, mainly due to the grit. You're very picky about the texture. Well, that's something that we both feel. Everyone makes fun of me for being very fussy. Make yourself as comfortable as possible. I recommend the cream biscuits. My assistant Roji prepared them. Or Roji. I think it's Roji. They're also fresh. Oh, so he does have a name. Of course. It is on one of Roji's shoulders. You must always title your proudest achievements. Oh. You suppose I really can't argue with logic like that. Finding yourself trapped by the expectation of good manners, you sit down at the makeshift table and tentatively take a bite out of one of the pastries, under Roger's expectant watch. Well, this track's a bit quiet. It's very calming. It's sweet, extremely overly so, to the point where you feel like you're just slurped the caramelized syrup straight out of a finished cigarette. Still, you give him a nod of your approval. He claps excitedly. The long silence falls over the lab. This day must be getting to you, because your mind drifts. You imagine yourself lying on this table, not an investigator, but a victim awaiting an autopsy. It's a silly thought, and you quickly dismiss it. In all fairness, being in Collian's company is much more comfortable than you anticipated. You feel that if he were a coroner, he would at the very least take due consideration with your dead body. Still, you feel a pressing need to break the silence. Your contracting has a rather unique set of circumstances attached to it. There's not really anyone doing work like yours outside of jade-wielded practitioners, and even then I would say you seem to fit rather snugly into your own personal category. Must be laborious. I prefer to think of it as necessary more than anything. He's still not sitting with you, just standing there next to Roji, vacantly staring at a spot on the wall. The goggles make it a bit challenging to puzzle out what he's thinking, honestly. The only thing you can tell is that he's nervous, gloved fingers anxiously pulling it at one another behind his back. It looks like he wants to say something, but can't find the proper words to start with. The entire situation is much different than what you were expecting based on the conversation with Hamifi. Leagues apart, really. You went in fully prepared to be met with resistance. Perhaps immediately run into something sinister. At the very least, you were ready to deal with a stiff, uncooperative recluse with a chip on his shoulder. What's in front of you is there is an anxious, overly polite man, more a boy to you. I think he's like 18 or 17 in this part of this timeline. I think it's 18, yeah. He'll read your tea before opening the door and had his assistant prepare you biscuits. No, I think 17. I don't know. You go as far as to say that he's entirely unaware of his present circumstances, and you're loath to imply this, but maybe Hamifi was a bit hasty in their assumption. So you're not willing to let the first impressions lead you astray. Not again. You're here for a reason, and you will conduct your investigation. Perhaps a casual conversation will lead you down the right path, if there's one to be followed. That, and you'd like to have a better profile on Collian. Right. You decide to inquire about Roji. You've been quite curious about the creation of his. Roji Go away, OneDrive. You've been quite curious about this. Roji seems to have a certain level of autonomous thought, along with base emotions and spontaneous reactions to stimuli. Very developed motor skills, too. You wonder if that's what's got him on the corporate payroll in the first place. I've been led to believe that your indictment to the corporate fold was rather unique circumstances. Might I ask what you did to win the representative's favour? Roger here definitely seems to be worthy of attention. Actually, he came about a decent while later. I was first able to reach out to the board through an extensive essay titled Examining the Ills of Everlasting Sustainment, in which I documented research focusing on a hypothetical method of cellular decay reversal in all major blood shades. The concept of prolonged sustainment of life in the face of entropy, and the methods of which it could further grow society at large. I think entropy is the name of one of the hand signs. Okay, don't ask, that's not important right now. This is all rather philosophical in nature. From the results you've seen of his research so far, you're expecting something more along the lines of hard science and applied biology. It is a very broad and ambitious proposition that I am happy that they decided to listen to. I was always rather worried that this would find my ideas to be unrealistic. Luckily, I was able to prove myself with my serums. And if any subsequent subject lectures I used to test my hypothesis on turned out to be less than savoury in the end. I think I read that wrong. Well, that's a rather harsh thing to say about him, don't you think? Or she sounds aggravated. Yes, I know, I'm trying to defend you. Guess you're actually holding a conversation with him now. I believe he is trying to say that he is not who I am referring to. Roger was a personal project co-created by myself and my associate, as an experiment in adaptability and personality. He pats Roger on the head fondly, which ended up being quite successful, I think. I wonder who his assistant is. So you're saying it's not the norm when it comes to your test subjects? He is rather unique in that he lacks the usual disposition found in the others. Upon revitalization, most of them are set into a frenzy. I assume it is the trauma of being forcibly brought back from wherever it is they've been lost to. You find the matter-of-fact way that he says wherever portion to be quite telling. Certainly not a follower of the All-Mother's work, nor of the Naught Father. And he's not a follower of anything. Pardon me, oh, that sounded horrible. It can be he finds the will to carry on with his research, or else he can turn grey without the thought of a high entity breathing down your neck. True. You'd be lying if you said the whole thing didn't leave you feeling a bit uneasy. This doesn't seem like an area of study one should be tampered with so liberally. But to have something so unorthodox... Pardon me. Something this unorthodox was given the go-ahead in the first place. Their attempts at salvation must be getting rather desperate. Pardon me. Jesus Christ, calm down, buddy. I keep saying that every video. If you had to make a guess, Session and Hamithi must have been outnumbered by the other board members and trustees, perhaps even executively. Oh, that's true, I think. What do you think makes Roger different from the rest? I am uncertain at the moment. My current working theory is that since he was created entirely from scratch without any pre-mortem individuality to speak of, the lack of, shall we say, a previous soul acts as an inhibitor to an inherently painful and negative. Which isn't to say he doesn't have feelings. He simply works for them at a slower and less intense pace than most. Sounds like you have a good grasp of the situation then, Doctor. Oh, look at him, he blush. He blushing. Collian looks away from you, flushing. He seems wicked by that statement. Did I say something wrong? No, it's just, well, I haven't had the pleasure of being called Doctor very often. Directly very often. You suddenly feel very old. The supercomputer. I don't know why I'm laughing. You recognize the exact model in its possession. It's... Go away, OneDrive. No. Oh. You recognize the exact model in its possession. It's corporate grade and very similar to the ones used to modify DNA strains in the reduplication labs. They've been used this for his work because of the raw processing power. Seems like an oddly specific piece of equipment to have just lying around. Is that your workstation? Oh no, it isn't. I sadly do not have the time to utilize the device as planned. It has been modified from its original state in order to better monitor certain parameters. While these computers do excel at running large amounts of data at a time. What kind of information are you recording? Audible musings of the potentially extranatural with the object of establishing contact. Oh shit, not this again. What is it with these suspects lately? You really should not be messing around with this kind of crap, it never ends well. You know from experience now. There's no need to be alarmed by the potential liabilities of such an idea. The process proves to be more draining than anything. I have never once heard anything besides a droning noise. It is very annoying, actually. Once it worms its way into your head, it does not tend to leave. And this sound may be persistent, but at the point I am not nearly as much. Oh, my nose is clogged. Still, that's a treacherous field to be playing in. What practical use does all this data even have? He shrugs his shoulders, seemingly at a loss. I cannot say with certainty with this moment, as the statistics have not answered my most pressing questions thus far. The entire project is no more than a pipe dream at this point. One way I have no real way to execute in the long term. Oh, if you read Vastera, we know what he's talking about now. Something's still not sitting quite right with you, though. You decide to prod further. Well, let us speak Trithinium hypotheticals, then. What do you wish you could get out of this? He seems to be taking a deep dive into his thoughts before pulling out the right words. Inside his thoughts. Offering them to you bluntly, almost as a dare. Untethered immortality. That's bold. And starting to ring close to where you came here to find. What you came here to find. You view that as something to aspire to? I view it as potentially a necessary thing. But as I said, it is highly probable to never happen on a wide scale. No one has the means to execute such an idea. That isn't exactly true, depending on who has that filter on hand, or what Collian himself could do with such an object. He'd be able to bring all of his aspirations to fruition, all of that, without a hint of involvement with corporate. Oh, just you wait. Hell, he could even end up rivaling it. You think understandable just why Amethyst had her eyes trained on him. This is leading you right back to the prime suspect line of thinking you were starting to doubt you'd need. That and it all seems incredibly dangerous to you regardless. You can only hope Dr. Collian keeps his senses and no longer meddles with forces he cannot control. Is that a line from Vast Era? I don't know. Oh. No, message. She had to inquire about his goggles. You can't avoid the rather unusual set of eyewear that Collian has on. Go away, OneDrive. It keeps popping up like... It keeps deleting an autosave. I don't know what fucking autosave. You can't avoid the rather unusual set of eyewear that Collian has on. So its shape resembles that of a common Ashen symbolism, though you imagine that's coincidental. I'm pretty sure it is. The thought that he's been using it to protect himself from fluids and chemicals comes to mind, but from what he's told you, all he did was before you got here was take care of basic disposal and some tea. Such a distinct shape can't be used for no reason whatsoever, though, can it? Oh, pardon me. Perhaps if you're nice enough, he will let you in on such a self-evident secret. There's really no need to be so guarded around me, Dr. Collian. Pardon? Many prefer and instill a degree of intimidation in the people you talk to. It's conducive to the kind of work you do. Part of the job description, really. But if you want him to open up, you feel as if a gentle touch would work better. You're still fully dressed for lab work, even though I doubt we'll be doing any experimenting anytime soon. Please feel free to remove your gloves and goggles. This is your hive, after all. I see no reason for you to stand there while I sit down at your table. Actually, I would not find that unprofessional. Oh. The Indigo blood freezes at the proposition. His head snaps to you just as his hands ball into fists. Oh. He opens his mouth, then abruptly closes it again. You can practically hear his thoughts shooting around in his head, and it expands per minute as you watch on with the mouth in concern. Oh. Oh, I think that's like representative of having another headache. Oh my voice. I need to blow my nose. With every second that passes, the silence becomes more tense. Collian is visibly shaking. Before you can think of how to intervene, he clasps his forehead right over the middle lens of his spectacles. Are you okay, Doctor? I think I would much prefer to proceed with my triage on. His voice is strained. Behavior leaves you baffled. Is this some sort of onset migraine from overexertion? You have trouble believing in such a straightforward request to leave anybody deliberative like this. It's not you. Well, it opens old wounds that I still don't fully comprehend, for lack of a better explanation. Please do not fret over it. You didn't know. We've been fretting over it before. Seems your curiosity struck a sensitive nerve. You're just going to have to hold it in for now. This topic clearly puts him under a lot of stress. The exact wording sticks out to you, though. You're no stranger to feeling less satisfied with your features, transgender, but for his eyes to be such a source of such distress? Oh well, it's really not any of your business. Well, it seems like you managed to find your path. Collian is even more linked to the ideas of surrounding the Vivifier than you initially thought. And you've managed to keep an amicable atmosphere to boot. Hope it'll be useful in getting him to open up, or at least slip. Time to get to the real investigative questions. Not to sound blunt, Dr. Collian, but you've been an excellent host so far, more than I expected. I do believe it's time I got the reason why I'm here in the first place. Tell me more about how you do your work. You're looking to tell him the exact reasons why you needed this information. For all he knows, you're just here on a general business check-in. Regards, my battery is getting low. Will the charger work? It will. This charger's been fucking being a bitch-ass motherfucker recently. Regardless, the reaction you get is nothing short of ecstatic. Or as ecstatic as it can get when it comes to someone with Collian's disposition. Still, it's noticeable how the topic seems to suffuse with its energy. Well, you see, outside of what I've already told you, my course is to find a way to extend the duration of Reptonian lives. And I've expected to see between 28 and 55 sleeps is rather dismal compared to anything pre-Renaissance. However, in order to properly manipulate the faculties of life, we need to understand how it is created and how it can be restored. This is where my study comes in. The examination of whether or how life can potentially be returned to an individual post-mortem and reinvigorated. Some consider this practice ethically dubious, but I am of the mind that restoring our losses is the first step to our eventual recovery. The more we can save, the more we can utilize, the more manpower we can have in order to rebuild Repeton and achieve a lasting peace and prosperity. Your eyes have glazed over. A pregnant pause settles over the room as both of you stare at each other. Thinking he's expecting you to say something, but you struggle to formulate a response. Your expression does all the legwork. Oh. He clears his throat, a light blue flush peeking out from under his goggles. It's not that you're bored exactly, it's just rest for a demonstration, not an entire sweeps of the theoretical ramblings to fill your head with. Regardless, I do not know if you would understand were I to explain it in raw technicals. This one doesn't sound condescending coming from him. Credit where credit is due. What do you propose we do then? I'd still like to get a better idea of the results that your process yields. Leading him on. Well, I currently find myself with no usable cadavers, nor a way to stitch one together. I need to refer to my associate for that, and it would take much too long. The only option I could see being viable would be to go outside and obtain one for a live demonstration. It would need to be a fresh pick in order for it to work. Well, that was tricky to read. Recently infected does not allow for heavy rotor extraneous trauma. I was afraid I wasn't recording again. Odd. You don't think he'd be so eager to share his work from what Hermitha relayed to you? Could you really be off the mark with this assignment? Perhaps any connections between his research and your missing vial are merely coincidences. Should have pressed her on the topic. Those two have had the habit of clouding your judgment. That sounds agreeable. Excellent. We shall leave and return post-haste. Now, to be clear, this is for... Oh, don't worry, we will try our very hardest not to leave you waiting too long. Comrade, we are burning moonlight just by standing here, talking with Miss Opara, not showing her. Oh god. Oh. I don't know why that was funny. And just like that, he leaves through the same hallway you entered in, his assistant faithfully trailing behind. Oh, shit. You hear the familiar creaking of his front door open a few seconds later, and then silence. He just left? I mean, if you did say you preferred physical demonstrations, but this is almost comical. You barely had a moment to process what was happening. You wouldn't be able to stop immediately if you'd wanted to. This is such a notoriously bad move on his part. You can't make heads or tails of it. There's a high-ranking corporate operative inside his hive, specifically to investigate him and his methods, and he didn't even realise leaving you to your own devices might not be the wisest of ideas. Boggling. Or it would be, provided he was in any capacity involved in the events you were investigating, which has been questionable after this stunt, but come on. But still. Well, because... How could somebody so evidently smart be so oblivious? I feel almost morally obligated to conduct an investigation, just to teach him a lesson in situational awareness. Alas, you won't be doing it for that reason. You planned for doing it for regular business reasons as planned. If anything, Collian's absence means he's less likely to get upset when your more hands-on methods. Thank you for that much, Doctor. YVS chooses this moment to pipe in, almost knowingly. The sun chime definitely does not make you startle. Oh. Apparently your new companion comes with a full body scan mechanism that integrates it with your cognition somewhat. You're still not used to these notifications going off whenever you get those investigative emotions going. Oracle may be a dangerously brilliant engineer and a friend, but you found out the hard way that streamlining interface systems is not exactly your forte. A good portion of your 2-night study period was spent just figuring out how to even work the gadget. You've lost count of how many widgets you had to remove for ease of access. Really, all you wanted is to be able to record your increments without a complete report of your emotional vital signs, relayed to you through emoticons, or emojis, or stickers, or whatever. You were saying, time to get to work. My breath is running low once again. You don't know how long it will take him to obtain a specimen. From what you've seen, he's far more capable of handling himself, and there are a lot more of the undead roaming the graveyard. Go research whatever you deem conducive to the investigation proper, no dallying. Might as well get the most laborious option first. All these cabinets are just begging to be rifled through. You pick the one closest to you to start, which is addressed by the massive computer. You take a cursory glance at the book sitting on top of it, various schematics and other scientific resources. The spoils for your actual search are similarly disappointing. Flasks, tubes, extra pairs of gloves, scalpels, nothing out of the ordinary here. I bet you just left with a big cupboard at the end of the room. You're not expecting much at this point. Everything you've seen has been innocuous enough so far, but you're nothing if not thorough. You pull the double doors open and do a quick inventory of its contents. Cleaning tools, mostly. Pardon me. Just as you're about to close them back up, a bottle rolls out from underneath some towels. Lying on the ground with a thump. Before your eyebrows, picking it up and examining the label. It's liquid dye? Strange. You don't remember finding anything else around his hive that would indicate an interest in the arts and crafts. Is that not Magenta? I don't know. You left the cloth that was hanging it from view. Underneath, there's even more bottles of this stuff, in various colours. The entire display is rather conspicuously tucked away. Very strange. You ponder for a moment, but no plausible explanations come to mind. You're not sure what to make of this. After another moment of deliberation, you shrug and stow the item back into its original place. You'll have to tuck this observation away for later. Your curiosity pecks at you, however. It's a feeling that you haven't quite been able to shake off since your fun little interview. If what Collian has said about searching for untethered immortality is true, there must be something about it on his computer, some thread that you could follow. You walk over, you fiddle with the keys and knobs for several seconds, before you somehow stumble onto the power button. What you find shocks you. Absolutely nothing. Well, not absolutely nothing. You search through the direct files of his various inventories, but you only find old notes and musings that aren't exactly intelligible. Something about a transmutated epiphysis cerebri pops up, but whatever he's discussing is out of focus, beyond rational thought. Oh, I know what that is. A test valve perhaps, or some sort of private joke? Though he doesn't strike you the type for random bouts of humour. You try to research for any kinds of software, modified or otherwise, that he could be using to make contact with the outside forces he spoke of, but you still find nothing. This entire machine is practically wiped clean. He doesn't even have a custom wallpaper. You do notice that he has Scorp running, though, the only application currently running. It's a bit of a gamble, but perhaps there's something to be found amid his discussions with his so-called associates. You decide to take that chance, or we're about to get some juicy stuff here. Seems that all of Collian's recent Scorp calls have been from Hamifi. Not much from interest there. You start scrolling through his recent conversation logs and contact lists, only find them practically barren. You investigate Ripite, his conversations were frequent, friendly, and colourful. Collian, on the other hand, seems to almost never message anyone. Sanguine Allegory, weeks of no contact. Demir is quantified over 2 blinks of silence. Pliable Decadence, no contact at all. Wondrous Artificer and Furbish Facilitated are a little more recent. You believe the former is the work partner you mentioned, whereas the latter seems to give him a bit of a cold shoulder. You reach grandiose saturation, so you quickly surmise is one Kaldakarian, someone you're frankly surprised isn't on your suspect list. Yeah. The last messages date sweeps back, almost 2 to be exact. You don't spend much time on them, but you know just how different they both sound in the messages you read. They're practically still children. Calda seems raw, like he's on the verge of breaking. You don't feel comfortable reading these specific messages further. Oh yeah, those are... Oh, here we go. The others continue to be less than useful until you get to one animated humorist. You stare at the sign next to their chat handle. Isn't this the sigil that Husky and their group painted over the barn's wall? The sign of their saviour? Upon closer inspection, the blood colour matches it well. It's the exact same shade, just a little bronze that makes you think of high fructose corn syrup. This must be your mind playing tricks on you after that concussion. A sigil like this should never have been on record, not anymore. A person like this shouldn't exist. And it is then your eyes catch another chat handle. Existia Oracle. Uh-oh. You skipped over the name at first, assuming it was simply another shade of olive, but upon further inspection, the hex code lines up almost exactly with the picture of the filter in your dossier. You glance to the left of it. Sweet fucking All-Mother. The sigils match, you know they do. No one alive on Repeton today is ignorant of this symbol, nor of the impact it has had on this planet's history. This can't be real. The Vivifier was never reduplicated. No trace of her was ever found or arguably even existed until your case. You open a chat log. Their last communication was a couple of nights ago. You skim through the conversation, talking of experiments, of the promising results of replenishing the stock, and of love? That last part cannot possibly be genuine. By the end of it, you're gripping the disc so hard your knuckles have turned white. Pieces of the puzzle start snapping together in your mind as you try and make sense of what you're reading. These are symbols you've only seen noted. Oh, pardon me. Oh, that was nasty. You've only seen it within cheap fiction, among cults searching for someone to give their lives meaning. Pardon me again. In stories passed through word of mouth that nobody dares claim to be true. You tell yourself that you're dreaming, or that he's just friends with trolls who roleplay legendary figures as a pastime. You have every excuse to try and rationalise what this could be other than a case blown wide open. But you don't buy it. You don't buy that a young girl named Elsie Reyes doesn't exist, that the blood stored in Collian's laboratory isn't hers, that she has nothing to do with the marvels of science that have put him on corporate's payroll. Don't believe the smokescreen of pleasantries and dyes he tries to disguise this with. Who are these trolls? How come they even exist? What does this mean for the case? For you? Well, you gotta read faster to find that out. Which I will do eventually. These are questions you'd rather not have answers to. You don't think Collian really knows either. None of these logs seem to suggest that he might have orchestrated any of these encounters. It all just seems so natural. Like it was destined. Maybe being here was destined as well. You can't risk losing this. You need a backup of this information. Something more physical than usual. Time to test one of YVS's upgraded features. You press a button on your scouter and YVS scans the monitor, taking the relevant snapshot. It's safely stored in an allocated folder. With the information secured, you wipe your head around, and your eyes immediately land on a single point of focus, the door at the backstage, which you now know serves as storage. You rush towards it, pushing it open with so much force it slams against the wall and rattles on its hinges. Oh, uh-oh. Oh yeah, constant warning, massive amounts of blood. And a dead body. There by the left wall, 2 cylindrical storage units. You barely pause before storming towards them. Just as you expected, the door is unlocked, like everything else has been in this hive so far. It slides open with a hiss, and a blast of cool air hits you square in the face. The tendrils of mist dissipate in front of your eyes. Feel a chill run down your spine. It has nothing to do with the temperature. You stare, petrified, at the shelves in front of you. Rows upon rows of vials filled with blood. Lime blood, Elsie's blood, the Vivifier's blood. Your right hand grips the handle so hard you could feel your fist shaking. This is not what you came here for, and at the same time it is exactly what you were looking for. Your head swims, and for a second you feel as if you're going to be sick. Then all at once your turmoil comes to a boiling point inside you and you're seething. He nearly tricked you. On impulse you reach out and grab one of the damn filters. You're probably gripping it with more force than you should, but you can't help but bring yourself to give a shit. You stare at the contents. They're vibrant green, all shimmering in the artificial light, not liquid as much as thicker, gel-like texture. The chilled glass burns your fingertips. You fight the urge to smash the thing to the ground. There's a noise coming from the other room. You hear moans from Rogi, the familiar steel-toed step of Collian's boots and scraping, like something is being dragged on the floor. Having the body intended to use this very blood on for demonstration. Oh. Monsieur Para, where are you? Your voice sounds like a venom, even to your own ears. In here, Collian. Oh. Oh god. That's a lot of different, many colours of blood. After a brief exchange with Rogi, he steps inside the room. You barely take note of his bloody clothes. You will take me to Elsie Raines. The safety catch of your gun releases with a click. You aim at his chest. Collian raises up at the threshold and slowly raises his hands up. He speaks before you had the chance to. How did you find out her name? The words leave your mouth almost as a snarl. You might want to give a little thing called a password a try. Stop stalling. You're not getting out of this one, Doctor. Oh, I should have said it more as an insult. His voice takes on a pacifying tone, like he's talking to a wild animal. It makes you want to aim his leg and pull the trigger. I have no intention of walking out of this, and I know that you don't either. In fact, I thought this conversation a distinct possibility from the moment you stepped inside my home. But please let me explain. I utilize Elsie's blood for my research because she allows me the privilege. The only reason it's kept secret is because it cannot fall into the wrong hands. Your own hand tightens around the revolver. A bark of laughter claws its way out of you, humorless. And I suppose the right hands would be yours? Please. Part of you realize there's no reason to argue with him, and the words spill out of you before you can stop them. I'll understand a lot of the way Cecily's feeling right now. For very different reasons, but, you know. You're keeping a vital, groundbreaking asset from the only institution on this fucking planet that has the necessary resources to do something tangible with it. Right under their noses, no less. Do you really think that you really think of yourself better than the entire body of researchers at corporate disposal? Or do you just want all the glory for yourself? No. I don't think I am better than anyone. I am better than anyone else. I am simply trying to do the right thing by our species and our planet. I want to help, as many before me have tried to. Perhaps my hands are not the ones you and your corporate would deem most fit to handle power such as this. He pauses, steeling himself. But it is not your choice to make, Monsieur Para. It is hers. She trusts me to use her gifts correctly, and I simply trust her judgment in turn. You scoff. The revolver is still trained on his blood pusher. Oh, will you cut the bullshit? You still think this earnest act has any chance of sticking? After what you've told me, after what I've seen here. You expect me to believe you're on some sort of noble crusade to protect this Elsie, when we're standing right in front of shelves upon shelves of her own blood? At least have the nerve to admit you want to lose your precious lab rat. He immediately stiffens at your words, and there we go, you think. The mask is off. Uh-oh. His anger bubbles to the surface and you gear up for confrontation. You are taking him with you, willingly or by force. How dare you? How dare you demean her? You know nothing of what she has done for me. She saved me! What? That lab rat you so desperately wish for me to see her as. She's the salvation of this planet and the love of my life! I will not allow corporate to lock her away and treat her as a walking test subject. Not for any price. Not for any reason. And you refuse to listen to her will. He draws his weapon, and the finger you have on the trigger twitches reflectively. The raw intensity of Oshi's voice makes you still your hand. I will either kill for her, or die for her right to be free. Uh-oh. The words echo across the room, bouncing off the walls, sharp, and they stick, ringing in your ears, inside your mind. It's like a cold pail of liquid just washed over your body. The red haze leaves your vision. In front of you, you see unsteady, trembling hands, pointing a weapon in your direction. You see devotion, and a fierce desire to protect at all costs. You see a child, not even half your age. Pardon me. You see yourself, 12 years old, rather, what you wish you could have been. For her. The vial you're still holding feels heavy in your hand. Tell me about her. This catches him off guard, and it does you too. You're not sure why you're asking. What? Tell me about Elsie. He stares at you for a few tense seconds, chest heaving before taking in a shaky breath. She is so very unique. There's so much of her shrouded in a dense fog of mystique. She's a host to a power the likes of which the world has not seen in Centenalia. Someone would rend her limb from limb in order to obtain it. And yet she perseveres through every unfair hand she's been dealt. Her passion toward those she cares about rivals any work I could ever hope to do. His voice softens at the next words, and your throat constricts. And she loves to dance. She shows others, maybe a little too much. And I know that she craves company desperately. The kind that I more often than not cannot provide in this line of work. Even though she deserved it and so much more. I don't get to see her as often as I would like. But even when she complains and gets frustrated, she still believes in me. And whenever I get to see her smile, I truly feel as if I am doing the right thing. For her and for everyone else. At this point the laser is hanging limply in his side. You're almost gradually lowering your revolver. Not quite aiming at him anymore, but still at the ready, just in case. His worms swirl around inside your head. For the first time in what feels like ages. You waver. Before you see two paths. Okay, so we are going to want to do duty first. You'll see why. You have to do this. You have to do this. You have to do this. But do you really? You know who you are and what you could do. If you have the capacity to do either of these things. And yet, the only place of choice ever truly lies in is within yourself. Will you decide to listen to it or ignore what your own soul already knows it wants? The feeling is all too familiar to me. I understand the doubt, the fear. But perhaps you need a moment to consider the weight of this decision more carefully. It is no trouble. I will wait for you. You will see what's right in the end, Cecily. Because you will listen to her. See, you can't make a choice. And just remember, we do have a narrator, and it is a character from Snowbound Blood. So, yeah, empathy. You have to do this. You have to let him go. So you do. You put the safety of your revolver back on, and the click makes Osius startle. He's tense, shoulders clenched and jaw locked, and you know his eyes are boring into you even though you can't see them. Once again, he seems to be expecting you to say something. Once again, you let your actions do the talking. With smooth practiced motion, you holster your gun. Osius' shoulders slump. What are you doing? What are you doing, you think quietly to yourself. You breathe out through your nose in a sharp huff. I'm letting you go. A directed command at YVS for Osius to hear. YVS, dump latest snapshot files. I mean, that's kind of useless because she has perfect recall, but you know, not to spoil the moment. Oh my god, that corpse has 3 toes. Ugh, 4 toes even. And the big toe's not a thumb, is it? You watch the screen as it permanently deletes some of the most important secrets corporate could ever hope to know. A silence that follows your statements hangs over the two of you like a thin veil. You stare at each other. Oshus feels for the wall behind him with one hand. He stumbles back and braces himself against the surface. His laser clats to the ground. Oh, I see. He slumps against the wall, running a trembling hand through his hair. Then, to your surprise, a quiet peal of laughter spills from him. Thank you. His voice has a watery quality to it, and then when he lifts up his head again, his face lights up with the first smile you've seen from him since you walked through the front door. Technically it's a third smile, but whatever. Thank you, Monsieur Parra. The gratitude in his voice is slightly overwhelming. You glance aside and clear your throat. Yes, well, you're welcome, Dr. Collian. Do try to keep your doors properly locked next time. You're still clutching the vial in your hand at this point. Blood inside it has started to melt, and it sloshes around in its container as you lift it up. You consider it for another moment before putting it back in its original place and closing the door. There's an undercurrent of something left unsaid permeating the room as you both stand there. With your back still turned to him, you heave a sigh, and then shoot him a glance over your shoulder. I'm sorry about this. Of what I almost did. I'll spare you the details. It's a long story and we just went through a whole situation together. It is alright. This point is already pushed off the wall and assumed a more collected stance. You press your lips together, furrowing your eyebrows. Is it? Well, perhaps not quite. But I am okay with it at least. Were you sent to look for the blood in the first place? You reluctantly nod. His mouth twitches up into a smile, a deep chuckle leaving his throat once more. Perhaps I should have gathered that much from the start. I'm not always the most perceptive, but I know just how hard it is to do your job. It is a difficult balance to maintain. I'm sure you meant well. I try my best to do what's right. That is really all we can do. Thank you again. Just don't tell anyone I did this for you, especially not Miss Heckrix. Consider my lips sealed. With a final nod in this direction, you start making your way out of the room. Oh, it's a stumble into Rogi. It sort of looks like he wants to give you a hug. I had to give Rogi a hug. All Vastera fans, true Vastera fans, would give Rogi a hug. Although not all at once. You pat him on the back, glancing over your shoulders at Oshus one last time you reach the hall corridor. He waves at you and you wave back. Then you leave. Here we go. As you approach your motorbike, a familiar din echoes across your sound chasms. You know who you'll hear on the end of the line. After all you just went through, you really don't feel like answering. The weight of your decision has barely started to settle on you. You feel slightly dazed. A moment's notice, you take a deep breath, then you notify wife yes to answer. What do you want? Such blatant hostility. I don't know what else you expected from me. At first, I expected nothing at all. But then you started to surprise me. That's why I chose you. Did you like what you found? You have every reason to believe that they knew exactly what just happened, but you're not feeling particularly agreeable right now. I don't know what you're talking about. I never heard anything past your last little scheme. What a terrible waste. Even after Mrs. Heckrix seemed so thrilled by the tip I gave her, too. I knew she would take the bait once I told her what she wanted to hear. A shame. Your blood turns into ice in your veins. His words settle inside you, heavy, like an irradiated lump of ore slowly poisoning you from inside out. What did you just say? The rattling chuckle that comes out of your earpiece feels like a serrated blade dragging across your skin. I see you continue to listen whenever I tamper with those you hold dear. Yes, Cecily, that little insider was me. You should know firsthand just how easy it is to play pretend. Even more so when you're viewed as a... what was it? Ah, yes, an unhinged, voice-changing criminal. Your blood boils, a scream threatens to burst out of you in your frustration. But you keep your grip, just barely. You refuse to give them the satisfaction. Was this where you wanted me? Was this why you took the filter? No, not for this place in particular. Let's call this little detour a necessary raising of the stakes. You see, this story that I invited you to be a part of, it has rules, and you've been following them exquisitely. I did lead you here for a reason. Just as I have everywhere else. You're simply not in a position to grasp the bigger picture yet. You want to call this a load of bullshit. The more you think about it, the more certain coincidences start to align in your head. If you had not gone to Husky's barn, animated humorous symbol would have meant nothing to you. If you hadn't been led to Orica, you wouldn't have had any knowledge of their methods in the first place. Maybe even Indara was premeditated. Maybe that girl in the dress wanted you to notice her. Are they giving you hints on purpose? What purpose does it serve to lead you on this path? What purpose does a path serve for anyone? Anyone? One would assume it eventually leads somewhere. You saw some of the breadcrumbs yourself, didn't you? The blood is merely a circumstantial byproduct of this particular chronicle. This is bigger than all of us. Our lives have always been, and always will be, superfluous. Irrelevant, forgettable set of pieces in a grand order that we cannot comprehend. I simply want to prove a point on my way out. What fucking point do you have to make? That harming others yields results. That they make some sort of statement. Oh, perhaps the lapdog can think for herself after all. Fuck off. You have no moral ground to stand on. And you're wasting all the precious time you have left before I find your meaningless diatribe. We don't like to think ourselves better than those we view as inferior. You go out of your way to aid some, you neglect others. Why is that, I wonder? At the end of the night, life is all the same. Hollow, self-indulgent. This is why we need cleansing. This is what I wish to prove to you. You are absolutely vile. I am the cure. I will find you. Of course you will. That's what I want you to do. You just need to go through the necessary steps beforehand. Pacing is very important, after all. Take a good look at the setting, Regulator. You'll wish to remember it. I've made you an appointment with an acquaintance of mine. You're preemptively welcome. Behind the cracked skull of Aragonif. 3 days. -0. 3 zeros. Or is it 000? I don't know how to say those numbers, sorry. A hermit will await you. And if I refuse, we both know you will not. That's why you're special. Grit your teeth, the line goes dead before you have the chance to reply. A weary sigh leaves you, fading into the barren landscape. You stand there for a few seconds, glaring at a pebble on the ground. Then as you hop back onto your bike, a solitary course of action begins to form in your mind's eye. Pardon me. You now know which hands are the wrong ones, or at least you have a better idea of it. You know, this isn't solely about Vile anymore. This isn't a standard mission to retrieve a stolen object. Maybe this is against orders, more than your usual flirting with disobedience. Maybe you don't fully understand what you're getting yourself into. But you do know one thing. Surveying this entire escape thus far has taught you. Pardon me. This case doesn't have to be about what others want from you. It doesn't have to be about anything other than what you see it as. An opportunity to do what's right by this world, to stop someone who's more eager to abuse it. You're doing this for yourself now, and as such, you press forward. And look, and it's that guy. I do believe we learn his moniker in the next volume. I mean, we already know his obnoxious antidote, but you know, that's already a clue in of itself. So yeah, I'm gonna take a bit of a break before we move on to Moshiri, obviously, as I always do. I'm looking forward to doing the next volume. But yeah, I shall be back later. Okay, I'm back. I think I took a break for a few hours, actually. Wait, did I read this bit? Yeah, I did read that bit, okay. I didn't recognise the first bit, so we are going to move on to Moshiri Beta now. I was playing fucking Jump Force, because my brother got it. It's so fucking boring. Oh my god. Anyway, she's been on your mind for a while, and not just because of your recently acquired bumps and bruises. It's time you paid Moshiri Beta for a call. For business and for pleasure. Phrasing, Cecily! Phrasing! So here you are, making your way through the Stronghold's own Pale Light district, an area dedicated to the night's less colourful, but not necessarily less libidinous delights. What? Oh, okay. Why are we talking dirty? You turn left on the Pastel Promenade, heading for an apartment building limned with fluorescent pink about half a block away. The lapels of your long coat are pulled up against the cold and prying eyes. Even though the district is corporate sanctioned, as all internal districts are, there's still a unshakable need for surreptitiousness that grips most people whenever they come here. Pardon me. Because while there's no shame in availing oneself of temp services, either corporate state-sponsored or free commercial, there's something psychically degrading about the ins and outs of withdrawal management. Okay, so, yeah, I think I mentioned this in an earlier video, but we're finally finding out what temps are, because they've been brought up a bunch. They're basically like corporate sanctioned therapists for when you like lose a bondmate. So that's either a mixed or a cosmesis. If one of them dies, then you are assigned a temp. And Moshiri is a temp, but she is also Cecily's Morail. So, That's all stuff you're used to by now, though. Your caution is for other reasons. By now you've hopped the steps of the co-op temp apartment building and spiked Moshiri's buzzer with one weary finger. She knew you were coming, but not what state you would arrive in. You're not all that forthcoming about personal injury on your best of days, and certainly not when you're at all nervous about phone security. Hello? The carpet-muted shuffling sounds of someone about to open a door gently tug you out of a characteristic overthink, and then suddenly Moshiri is here. You're sure you make quite the display. Exhausted, coat ragged, silly band-aid still on your head is a kind of ironic ornament. No offence meant to the on-scene first aid you received, but it felt necessary to have someone back at the office give you an actual once-over after the whole ordeal. It's definitely not the worst shape you've darkened Moshiri's doorstep in. But despite the rest, it's close. Okay, it's Moshiri's theme. Kate, Kate did this one as well. As well as Cecily's themes. I think Kate does the themes for all of her characters. But yeah, this one, I like this one a lot. It's really calming and very fitting for Moshiri. Okay, so voice for Moshiri. Oh my goodness. Lily. That's good, I think. Her eyes widen in surprise. There's a pinch to her eyebrows, and despite the less than ideal circumstances of this particular meeting, you can't help but admire her for a few seconds. You feel a smile tug at your lips. Hey, Moshiri. Notice how Cecily has dropped her quirk for Morail, sorry. The moment is immediately ruined by a ragged, wet cough that claws its way out of your lungs. Moshiri goes out of focus for a few brief seconds, and your head spins. Oh, are you okay? What? When you manage to adjust your eyes again, she's standing right in front of you, doing her best to hold you upright on by the shoulders. Oh, Olmother, you're hurt. Sit down. I'm fine, don't worry. I just hit my head a bit. It's been a rough few days. Let's put it mildly. She purses her lips in a manner that is equal parts fond and exasperated. It's a look you've become intimately acquainted with over the sweeps. Dear thing, do you take me for a fool? She's already leading you inside before you can object, one arm wrapped around your waist in order to support your weight. You're not sure you even want to protest at this point, to be entirely honest. It's been a rough few days, and you're on concussion over your recommended daily limit of blunt trauma to the think pan. Letting someone with experience take care of you will hardly make things worse. You half stumble, half follow Moshiri through her living room. It's practiced motion. You know this place by heart. All meticulously organised personal belongings, every carefully arranged piece of furniture. I forgot what this thing is called. I know it's from Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney, this thing. I don't remember what it's called, but yeah, that's there. And of course, the fine china. She lets you down on her couch with a grunt, and you let yourself fall gracelessly against the soft cushions. Oh, Mother, you're tired. Your head feels so heavy. You allow yourself a few seconds of respite as Moshiri moves away from you. Your eyes close, and you lean your head against the back of the couch, idly listening to the soft rustling as she flits about the room. Oh, my mouse isn't plugged in anymore. I like how the ice packs are green on this planet and not blue. I've had my fair share of those in the past. A few minutes later, and you feel the press of something cold against the side of your head. You crack one eye open and find Moshiri leaning down in front of you, inspecting your wounds. She tisks in disapproval, then gently runs a hand through your hair and tucks it behind your left ear. This bandage is woefully insufficient. What kind of slipshod medical attention did you receive? A raspy chuckle leaves you at her words, and you lean your head against her free hand as she cups your cheek. My old friend Origo has found a new hobby in first aid. You'll find I'm carrying a great deal of evidence of her handiwork and a new piece of gear by way of apology. Your answer seems to catch her off guard. She blinks rapidly, mouth hanging open in a confused oh. That can't not be a reference to Maya, please. How did I never get that? Wait, Orca did this to you? Well, not really. That's very British, more British than usual. She was a pawn in a game I seem to understand less and less of every day. There's an antagonistic force out there, an insidious messenger driving trolls to their deaths. I'm ashamed to admit I almost fell right into his trap. The admission comes with some difficulty, almost like a confession. You don't meet her eyes as the words leave your mouth. There's a pause in the conversation, and she moves the cold compress away from your head, setting it down on a nearby table. The sudden change in temperature level leaves a warm, tingly imprint on your skull. Moshiri wordlessly helps you shrug off your coat, hands gentle. She's always so careful with you when she deems it necessary, as if you're made of fine glass. You find the comparison humorous if you weren't feeling so brittle. You old lady. She sits herself next to you, placing a hand against your jaw and forcing you to turn your head until the two of you are face to face again. You need to take it more slowly. I haven't seen you this busy since I haven't seen you since this business began. I've heard a great deal about the case already, but I don't think anyone truly knows just how much you're taking on. You let out a puff of air, wrapping your hand around her own. I prefer to work in the background. You know that. There's working in the background and there's suffering alone. You're trying to solve a conspiracy as one woman agency. You need a team, Lily. Inside assistance was necessary for this heist. How can I know who to trust? Her eyes flash with a familiar intensity before she replies. A sign which you know means that the gears have started turning inside her head. It's been a while since you've collaborated on a case together. The thought is like a bolt of electricity running through you. Start from the other side. What are the problems you're facing? And who can help solve them? Okay, so we've got a lot. This isn't actually a long route, because it's not really a, questioning someone in, like, the same manner as the others. It's more like an intermission. Still important, obviously, because this isn't the last time we see Moshiri either. Hacking. It's good with our opponent. Moshiri smirks a bit. Our? Shh. You said I should have a team. You've been drafted. Drafted. Always happy to help. Your face runs a bit hot. Not now, Sherry. You're trying to do tactics. Oh, God. The envy inside me. As I was saying, our opponent is quite deft with computers. And the other trolls Orica told me he messaged. Many of them are dead. Ruled suicides when I'm having a few juniors review those cases. I'm self-aware enough to know I can't handle that avenue on my own. It's likely he's either high up inside corporate infosec or has compromised someone within. I know of quite the proficient programmer. There is some rampant speculation about his unusual personal relationships amongst the mediators. Wait, is this one of those vaunted boys I've been hearing so much about? One and the same. He had an odd feeling about Bitcoin and Indari's descriptions of their tight-knit social circle. Was it revulsion or envy? Perhaps I'll reach out. Insider knowledge. I can navigate the typical corporate bureaucracy while we root around for a mole. I have a broad mandate for information gathering without anyone asking too many questions. It's maybe worth getting more help from the heir and his liaison as well. Pardon me. I've been trying to avoid putting them in harm's way. Her gaze softens at your words. She strokes your cheek with her thumb. Fair. I'll consider other options. Combat support. If this is indeed a conspiracy, it might be useful to have more muscle by my side. And I imagine none of the junior regulators meet your rigorous standards. Pencil pushers, the lot of them. Nobody does proper fieldwork anymore. They have the drones do it. Maybe Orica's Maidsprit would do. Worth an exploration, at least. As if you'll survive another encounter with the Roust. Calm down. Weaponry. Proserpina and my snub-nosed revolver serve me well, but I might want something a bit longer range for dealing with a well-prepared enemy. It'd be worth your time to look into weapons dealers anyway. See if there have been any suspicious purchases. Quite. Hopefully I can find something not too gaudy to wield. For someone who wears the same thing every day, you are quite concerned with the aesthetics of your arsenal. It's not a crime to take pride in the tools of your trade. Moshiri gives you a knowing look at this remark. Of course. I do believe we actually meet the aforementioned arms dealer in the latest volume. He, like Oshus, is quite the beefy guy. Cultist contacts. In fact, they're both beefy in that route. Indara was a bust as far as occult knowledge goes. It doesn't be fit to vivify a sect like the Mora to leave bodies behind and work with a serial murdering nihilist. I need some other way in. Nothing comes to mind immediately, but I'll look through the files I have. I'm glad you're accepting help. Ridiculous as this figure may be, the threat he represents must be taken seriously. He tried to sweep the Queen off the board in the opening. I really will accept the sacrificial gambit one day, Lily. So what does he want? Besides you out of his way. Not profit, left in his wake throughout the whole ordeal. Valuables in trucks, sea dweller wealth untouched, no sign of this thing popping up on the black market. I thought you lost your black market contact blinks ago. Oh, someone here? Found a new one, Siraj Feltree. Had her pegged as a suspect for ended up drunk in her office instead. Of course. You really do have a problem, Lily. What, with drinking? No, with women. Says the biggest part of it. You come to my door for succor and then slander my good name. What a diplomat. It's not slander if it's true, mediator. Those are fine words, Chief Regulator. Square up. What? You heard me. I think my sister just got back in again. You raise your fist in a faux defensive posture as she does. Indeed, square up. You idly swat away a few fake jabs in history's gentlest left hook. Moshiri laughs and leans in, pushing the fists of your boxer stands apart to get close. Moshiri smells of spring air, like none of the smog of the world outside has ever touched her. You, her Lily, close your eyes and embrace her, pressing your lips to Moshiri's forehead gently. You know, I think I showed a great pugilistic promise there. I think I'd have a solid odds if we thought for real. Please don't tell me she's putting her music on. Okay. If she's just going to tell her to turn it down. If we fought for real, yeah, you'd win. Really? No, probably because Cecily would... Even if you fought for real, Cecily would not... You know, she would go easy on it, definitely. Delicate warmth has been oozing slowly and inevitably through the room, like a very viscous, very affectionable, lukewarm lava flow, while the two of you have been chatting. And She Like Pizza is one of those rare, faintly hallowed if you squint people that you sometimes get up in the morning and thank the Old Mother for the grace of having met. Metaphorically speaking, I have at least 2 or 3 of those. That's my only friend. It's really thanks to her, Moshiri Lobita, 5'2", give or take, in her flat soled shoes, hair sleek and meticulously kept, presence vaguely cinnamon-infused, that you're alive in the first place. Shorty. Imagine being small. Imagine being that small. I'm gonna say he's a 5'7", I think? No, 5'8", definitely. It's all beginning to take you back. Recall, after Alina. Oh, here we go. Hello. Would this be Zero or San? I think? Maybe? I don't know. They told me you'd be coming. Armed guards at the door didn't give you any trouble, I hope. Can I take your coat? Why? You're still wearing yours. Do you require a second? No, well, A little joke can go a long way towards diffusing the tension in situations like these. If you are cold, though, I can assist in warming you up. I can make a spot of tea. Like I have now! I prefer my liquids without grit as a rule. I'm fine. Right. Very well then. Well, I'm certain an official in your administrative capacity is well aware of my role and the purpose thereof. Regulations still require me to provide a basic introduction. My name is Moshiri Lobita. I'm a temporary emotional mediation partner. Who do you say temp like everyone else? Much more efficient. I am trained to assist in the stabilization of corporate assets in the event of the loss of a bondmate should a registered Moriel not be available. I've been licensed in the practice for over a sweep. Just a sweep? Was everyone more senior too afraid after my outburst? I knew gave Zaim quite the bruise. While it is possible that some of my cohort may have considered your reputation, in conjunction with the recent incident, a challenge to take on, I assure you I'm not at all frightened of you, and hope to be of assistance in this difficult time. But let us go over your medical history. Let's not. As you wish. Okay. We can handle the paperwork later. I doubt it. I appreciate your offer, but I'm fine. Well, I'm sure you're perfectly qualified. I'm declining temp service, as is my right purge you into Article 5. I'll return to work after the mandatory leave period assigned to me. Obviously, she didn't go through with that. Don't play games with me, Cecily. Oh no. Hold on. This is what I said about my charger not fucking working properly. It's just stopped charging now. Okay, there is a bit of the wire that is very hot, which is a bit worrying. You're up against the wall now. Everything that matters to you is under siege. Barely hanging on. I've read your file. You're sort of a superior officer. If you send me back, they're not going to send another temp. They're going to send the chief regulator. Okay, so yeah, this is a pretty long ago flashback. So play nice for a minute, and I could at least get the armed guards off you stoop. Capiche? Oh, I'm Italian and I lost my wife. Well, Article 5 of the bylaws does give the work consumer the right to decline mediation services. It does still require the completion of a standard evaluation report. And declining that report with a resource readiness inquiry, pending will trigger a review by the chief regulator. Apologies, let's continue. Have you prescribed medications yet? Have your prescribed medications changed? There are a number here. I've been taking the same one for a couple of sweeps. Can I ask you a question? Of course. When does it start? A hand upon yours. Comforting. I am assuming the medication she took is Mountain Dew Code Red. Well, it depends on where you were on your cycle, of course. When was the last time you reaffirmed your bond? It's the first thing you noticed when she appeared at your door that day, and something you haven't stopped noticing in the sweep since. How much she looks like Alina. Her looking like that and asking that question stayed in your gut, indescribably. But now in the present, the pain has become something else. Less of a burn and more of a dull, pale ache. I mean, yeah, time heals wounds, which I learned over a very long course of time. Fucking hell. Let's not get into that. I hope I'm not causing you too much trouble. You've been causing me trouble for 10 sweeps. Don't stop now, Lily. Just make it good trouble. I've done a lot more thinking about what good is. I've learned more about corporate. I've seen things. I know. The level of responsibility, it's also going to be impossible to do everything right. You're up against much worse. Come on, Cecily, you know what she's talking about. Come on. Okay, that was a really important line for Cecily's character because she, you know what Moshiri was talking about. Come on. I mean, well, she doesn't, obviously, but wow. Are we really? This guy, voice in your ear, where does he prey on people? Hassle them? Turn their friends against them? Where does he find the members of the mobs he sends after his targets? You know this. On the internet. If a bomb is delivered via post, you call the parcel troll an accomplice. Parcel trolls don't put a system in every troll's pocket. At great expense, mind you. It algorithmically decides what to show you. Controls how you get information. Connects you instantly to thousands. Corporate did. Corporate centralized our systems of social interaction. They created a pipeline and encouraged trolls to document everything about themselves for public consumption. A spotlight that leads dangerous people right to the people they threaten. Your fancy advisor accesses corporate records to get the information you need to kill people. This figure uses corporate records. In this case, social media run on their servers and maintained by their engineers to find information on who he kills. Don't compare me to... I'm not Lily. I'd never. You have accountability. You file each piece of information gathered, you report to supervisors, you're evaluated for this power, trained for it and judged worthy to wield it. Shouldn't that same accountability be applicable to both the system you operate in and the system he does? It's always about the next big evil bad guy with you. Bios don't exist in a vacuum. If they did, they'd quickly suffocate, which would obviate the need for this cold conversation. How people are created by systems and enabled by systems. The systems that make them and sustain them should be looked into a little deeper. That's all. And she is absolutely right about that. You always manage to make the radical sound so mundane. Is it radical? You're dangerous with theory. I'm dangerous all the time. Yeah, me too. You wasn't taking the dimming light outside. It's always like this with her. Hours passing in what seemed like the blink of an eye. Conversations spanning every aspect of your lives, all tangled up in each other. No, you're wrong. It's not always like this. There have been times where the two of you have tried to untangle yourselves. For her sake. The first try was almost 10 sweeps ago. Last wasn't long ago at all. Mediation is an ancient tradition. Its practitioners are tight-knit and, like any high society, a gossip. As the sweeps of Moshiri's work stretched on, her colleagues began to talk about her behind her back as an oddity, never dipping into red or black relationships, focusing wholly on her profession, and you. One evening she'd been quite upset. A bottle of wine and a session later you discovered it was because they dubbed you Cecily E.O. Parasite. Ugh. You thought it was sweet that she got so upset over a slight to you. The nickname didn't bother you much. Well, seeing her back here after another final separation, and her falling red for another, brings it back to mind. Oh yeah. Moshiri's mediator peers are, to a 1, socially perceptive. You watch it glide around the room, the pictures of serenity. Blessing you've never understood. She's circling around, putting sputtering matches to the wicks of many candles to light the dimming room, flames dancing in her dark eyes. She's one of the few practitioners of the old ways, with new hives opting out of the monasterial isolation, the intensive study it requires. Most are elderly now. She unties the ribbon from her hair, which lets you see the gold-threaded inscription embroidered on it. It's in the old tongue. Most trolls, including you, got your education through technology. Dead languages weren't on the curriculum. Moshiri, though, grew up studying intensively with others of her tradition, could speak and write fluently in pretext. There's probably a joke there somewhere I'm not getting. She's tried to explain it to you, but somewhere around declension, you always start losing focus. Her dark hair spills down her back as she sits down beside her harp, begins to move her softly fingers delicately across the strings. I bet she's playing her theme. Again a creature of uncommon talent, she knows well your difficulty with most music, but the slow, wandering tone she plays always put you at ease. You walk up to her slowly and kneel beside her on the soft mat floor. You watch and breathe and wait for her to begin the next part of her ritual. She sings a slow, mournful song in the old tongue, syllables softly flowing. Close your eyes and let the sound wash over you. You think the effect would be spoiled if you understood the words. As it is, and you can imagine it's exactly what you need to hear. A declaration of feelings and understanding, in words so plain and clear as to make every stopped rhythm inside your head flow freely again. You lose track of time, a rare privilege for you, as she continues to play. You close your eyes as the last notes fade into a resonant memory. You hear the shifting of fabric as she shifts across the mat, from beside her harp to your side. She lifts up your hands and lays them on one knee. You open your eyes. Moshiri is looping a gold-threaded hair ribbon under your wrists. A prayer is woven into it. She reads that prayer, quietly, melodically, as the thread touches your skin. She loops the ribbon around itself in an elegant knot, binding your wrists together. You remember what it means for the translation she first provided for you 8 sweeps ago. O Mother of omniscient name, impart a gift unto this plain. Deliver a peace and respite now, upon the well-deserving brow. The ribbon, in concert with her words and touch, feels attached to something greater, like you are tethered to a great enveloping root that winds its way through the soil all there was. Oh, you could say a teal ribbon tied to a corroded green pole. And if in action we do err, gather us then into your care, and our step and make us wise, so you may be your 1,000 eyes. Sounds strangely eldritch. When the ribbon is pulled taut, binding your wrists, she pulls back, happy with her handiwork. You, like always, catch yourself before you lean longingly after her. A wistful, questioning look flickers across her face in the candlelight. What does it mean to want to make someone happy? I've asked myself this question on a great deal. Over our sweeps together. I want to make you happy. I know this much is true. You've seen me at my worst. I fear I might not be far from it now. People are dying and I can't even see the shape of the problem. I've been poring over every suicide on recent record, looking for connections. I don't have time to be happy. Not while this monster is out there. Right now, while we're talking, someone's seeing words on a screen that'll push them closer to giving up. There's a selfish way to be selfless, you know. Where you make the problems of the world your problems, and let the pain rain down on you, and burn as the rain burns. It feels productive to hurt. She tightens the bonds on your wrists, not enough to pinch, but just enough for the soft ribbon to constrict, cut off circulation, squeeze firmly. Lovely. The pain for pain's sake accomplishes nothing. Your agony cannot revive the death of the past, nor can your guilt prevent the death of the future. Happiness works kind of like magnetism. It's a force that comes about through alignment. Like how a magnet is created by aligning the atoms in a bar of iron. Happiness is a construction that requires people's desires be aligned in a corresponding way. Pardon me. Along certain shared axes. Usually neurotypical ones, mind you. Which also throw off the alignment of whose desires point in different directions. These people are seen as disrupting the right to happiness to everyone else. Are you seeing my natural inclination towards unhappiness is a harm to society? So I'm just so fascinated with fixing me. I can't fix you. What was the word? Never mind. I was going to say something. Nor do I want to. A long time ago it was my job to. Sometime after that I entertain the fantasy that there's a conventional life possible for you. I could find the right combination of words and the right soothing touch to make it a reality. The tips of her knuckles brush across your cheek. You weren't expecting it, your senses dulled and eyes shut, and it gives you a sudden chill. She lingers, dragging her hand agonizingly slowly until the tips of her fingers brush your chapped bottom lip. You fight the bizarre urge to bite. Calm it down, Cecily. If I could film whatever gulf lies within you, you would live a normal life. Weighted this world off of you. I want to take you away from here, Lily. But there is no one else, nowhere else. Let me realize how selfish that desire was. She's gotten closer now. You can feel her breath on your face. Does she know how this feels for you? She must. This dance you've been dancing for sweeps. You don't know why she does this to you, how she actually feels. You've never bonded. Can't ever bond. You made sure of that when you met Yeshin 7 sweeps ago. Oh, dear old Yeshin. In these moments, though, your thoughts swim with frustration and love. Confusion? Where did I get that from? In another life. Could it have been different? Would she have wanted that? Oh, gotta loathe Cecily. Duty and selfishness, obligation and personal desire, together and then not. The two of you, irrevocably intertwined. What is the line of pale? This world needs you. It asks you to be a machine. Flesh wears and weakens where metal does not. Mind rends in the dissonance of purpose. Someone must put you back together. You're kneeling on a soft tatami mat, hands and ankles bound, soft sound of harmonic wind chimes outside. Your vision swims with deeper shades of black behind closed eyes. Her hand, dull-clawed but nimble, brushes the short, buzzed hair of the side of your head and gently guides you closer. She kisses you. It's gentle, full of feeling, and gives you the sensation of falling. It always does. You never ask her for this. You never have. But you always end up coming back to each other, and you kiss back, hungrily. Fucking hell, Cecily. You want her all to yourself, and she wants to keep you. Unthinkable for a mediator, and at the same time so simple. The radical made mundane. If you had an ounce of shame, you catch fire with it. If you were concerned with appearances, about the foundation of taboo your arrangement is built on, both of you of it would burn to the ground. But you... Oh. Pardon me. But you don't ignite. There are no observers here, no shame. At this moment there is no repertoire to save, no murder to solve, no strict limits to adhere to. Just your lips and hers, and her hands roaming across your skin, warm and soothing. So, I have something to tell you, while you're here. It's difficult. We've just been assigned a client we'd be given a folder, printed out information, the histories past RRIs, etc. You've been pushing Sestra to rectify that, right? Yes, and he did. Thanks for the assist on that one. So there's a new computer system that allows us to search employee records. I don't struggle with computers occasionally, but you don't have to warn me like you're about to talk about them. Hush. So I looked into a few things from the past. They digitized historical case files going back sweeps. As it happens, the one who used to provide me reports eventually transitioned to managing that OCR system. Oh, I liked him. Tinny? He held the outback when I was like Junior 3. The very same one. And it is preserving entire libraries now. Worth the cost of your morning reading being nerfed, I'd say. I have this archivist to do it for me now. Clever thing, but too enthusiastic by half. One time I asked her if I had an alibi of a guy buying chips at the time whether the infraction was true. She gave me a 10-page record that included a graph of quarterly profit in the convenience store industry, indexed to power cost increases from crypto mining. Don't fuss. That report got you on Bitcoin's tail. Not its paid dividends. Greasy bastard covers his rat tracks. At least his lead was interesting. You're going to distract it. Why change the subject when you fear bad news? You'll find I'm an expert in receiving bad news. Of course. It's a skill you've honed well. Gotta storm. Because of my honing myself, I'm sure to know all about that. Go for a smile that you hope is somewhat winning. I'm sure it chuckles a bit politely. There's no heart in it though. Cecily, please. This doesn't look good. Return to questionably platonic flirtatious prevarication hasn't made you feel any better about what's coming. Might as well get it over with. What is it? No point in delaying the unpleasant. At least this isn't taking you complete by surprise this time. Look, I searched the Robiad file to see if there have been updates on trolls of interest in her case. And I'm surprised to find an unredacted copy on the database. Just hearing Alina's surname freezes your stock still. The posthumous file you received was pitifully thin. It's Moshiri herself who told you not to press, who emphasised acceptance. So it must be very off for her to bring it up now. Oh. Something happened. You storm into Sestra's office, mind-clouded with anger. Surprised to see Himithi sitting at his desk instead, caught off guard by your unannounced entry. What's going on? Where is he? She gives you a significant look. On with it, damn it, not now. Is he alright? He worried himself sick when your sister went dead a few days ago. It's been a challenging few weeks, and things have let up since the first bodies were found. We're getting strange reports. Nothing worth taking you off this case for yet. But it was all weighing on him a great deal. You know him. If anyone's hurting, he's hurting. He's been having an episode. Uh-oh. It's one of Corporate's closest guarded secrets. While he's capable of intense focus, working tirelessly for days at a time, Seshra is prone to burning out in spectacular fashion. For up to a week at a time, Hervé has to take the air's planes when he can barely leave his coop. Some of your rage is already burned off as you remember the times you had to feed him. Now she handles that, along with cleaning up his mess. She handles that. The bully doesn't know what she does. Perhaps it's for the best. You adopt a gentler tone. Take me to him. You're walking and talking now, passing through a hallway, both with nearly the same long, loping stride. Vitals. All in acceptable bounds. White blood cell count good. Blood pressure is a little high, but it is, as you know, not abnormal for him. Doesn't have our gift for it. How long has it been? Any lucid periods? You get in an elevator. Murphy presses a touch stump to the print detector and pushes the button for the penthouse bedroom. In about hour 14 he had a few spells of lucidity. We had a set together, we ate dinner, then I got him in the Recuperacan and he slept just fine. You didn't think to call me? Okay, so there's a lot in here. I don't know if this theme is really suitable for the tone, so I'm just gonna fade it out like that. So we've got fucking Slampress. We got a Bart, and we got a Pikachu. Maybe shoots you an annoyed look as she holds open the elevator door to Sestro's respite block. One that communicates, I can handle this, Miss Pyro. You hope she can. She reaches to a whisper, and you can see why. Air is wrapped up in a blanket, slouched forward, sitting on that storage tube chair thing you've never liked. Ah, a bed. Don't think it's necessary to interrupt your rest yet. You could have died up there. Higgins moved behind Sestro and put a hand on his only slightly responsive shoulder. While continuing a hushed conversation, he whispered back, Glad to hear life is a new priority of the company. Oh, she looks taken aback. What? Do you know what happened to Relina Robiad? She was kidnapped. Yes, by a group of smugglers known to have only 5 members. If he pauses, she whispers back. You've seen the full report then? Yes, they're a band of bootleggers. They sold low-quality honey and sweeteners as part of their racket. Elena's superior apiary techniques were making better goods for cheaper, were running them out of business. So they turned to crime. They demanded a ransom. It's corporate policy to avoid paying large sums of money to criminals. I was physically restrained from intervening, and this company that I've given everything to, they negotiated. The executive negotiated a price on my mate's Brit's life. He stayed my sword hand so he could ask him to knock off 30% like he was haggling for a shipment of concrete. Are you defending him? Can't believe you managed to keep whispering. You're barely keeping it together right now. Tears well up at the corners of your eyes. The finger you gestured with shakes. Maybe he has a guard up. You hate that. I didn't expect this kind of anger from you. You've never been sentimental. You taught me how not to be. At that you restrain yourself. This wasn't their fault. It wasn't even hatched at the time Alina was killed. Your tone softens. I could have been sentimental. I was, for her. I taught you not to be. You were almost so gentle with him. You picked up all the slack. I was clear I'd have to as well. Even now, this important thing, you want me to go to him. Do you trust me? She's looking at Sestro, who lays there glassy-eyed, beneath the blanket adorned with stars, hand on his shoulder. She looks closer to tears than you've seen her in sweeps. You told me not to trust anyone, but I do, Hemifi. She your gaze and the corner of her mouth twitches, just a little. You're never good at following orders. Oh. So we learned quite a lot there. And I do believe that is it. Oh. That was volume 5. Pretty good volume. We've got a pretty good one coming up next. We've got a volume 6 of Feats Culinary and Alchemical. Oh boy, I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to enjoy that one. Really looking forward to volume 7 and 8. Oh, 8. Oh, I'm really looking forward to 8. But yeah, that was it for today, I guess. No one's watching this, are they? I don't know. Thanks for watching if you did. Just like and subscribe. Read Snowbound Blood. and Vastera, and have a good one. Yeah. Goodbye.